partner Veronica Liu and I are representing the negative side in today's debate. In other words, we disagree with the resolution. Resolved that the United States government should substantially increase its transportation infrastructure investment in the United States. You heard my partner redefine the terms as the negative sees them and introduce our first two arguments. Drastic change will lead to drastic waste, and implementing a plan proposed by the resolution would be way too expensive. In my speech, I will introduce our third argument. Infrastructure investment is ineffective and inefficient. During this time of economic crisis, spending by the government should be stimulating jobs and the economy. According to Keynesian economists, for spending to be stimulative, it has to be timely, targeted, and temporary. Infrastructure spending is none of these things. That's because infrastructure projects involve planning, bidding, contracting, construction, and evaluation. Only $28 billion of the $45 billion in Department of Transportation money included in the most recent stimulus has been spent so far. Obama has already implemented a plan that calls for 43 new infrastructure development projects, which began undergoing development in March 2012. These new infrastructure projects are already doing a lot of good in helping to improve our nation's infrastructure without further substantially increasing the investment of the federal government. These are long-term projects that have already been put into place. Why should we change this system that is already changing and being implemented and increase our infrastructure spending even more? As my partner Veronica Liu mentioned earlier, investment, as defined by the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is the outlay of money for income or profit. Our nation and its people will make no income or profit from substantially increasing our infrastructure spending. I have a report here of a study done by the Urban Land Institute. I would like to read what they said would happen if we spend so much money into new infrastructure. Eventually, the federal gas tax will have to be increased, local governments will be allowed to toll interstate highways, water bills will rise to pay for pipe and sewer replacement, property and sales tax will increase, and private profit-seeking companies will play a much larger role in funding and maintaining public projects. I see no way to misconstrue this and say that it would help our people or profit them. According to NBC Politics, the decision made during the fiscal cliff negotiations will already cost the federal government $4 trillion in tax revenue over the next 10 years. If we substantially increase our infrastructure spending, the government would be even more hard-pressed to raise taxes on the people or cut spending in other important areas. President Obama has already cut spending on some important programs like Medicare, and our country's economic situation is not getting any better by the minute. According to National Review, quote, infrastructure spending tends to suffer from massive cost overruns, waste, fraud, and abuse, end quote. They cite a comprehensive study that was conducted in 20 nations and 5 continents worldwide. This study found that 9 out of 10 public works projects come in over budget. It shows that for new rail investments, the average cost is 44.7% greater than the estimated cost, and the equivalent figure is 33.8% for bridges and tunnels, and for roads, 20.4%. These numbers are staggering, especially considering the fact that these percent values represent huge sums of money and needless cost overruns in spending. If we were to implement a plan to substantially increase our transportation infrastructure, it would not be beneficial to the people of the United States in any way. To address the affirmative plan, it is both impractical and undesirable. It is impractical because we do not have the funds to substantially increase these investments. According to The Guardian, a British economics website, investing large amounts of money for new infrastructure does not significantly fix the issues at hand. This plan is also impractical because infrastructure investment has little to no stimulating effect on the economy, as I've proven. The other side's plan is undesirable because new infrastructure projects take a very long time. There will be little to no immediate effect on our country. As I stated earlier, infrastructure must be timely, targeted, and temporary for it to have a good effect. Infrastructure spending isn't any of that. New infrastructure takes many steps until it can actually be used, and the plan would also be impractical because it is a blatant and irresponsible waste of our limited funds. This plan proposed with the affirmative is neither practical nor desirable. In fact, the negative would like to introduce a counterplan. The word investment implies spending money on projects that will help the future of our infrastructure, such as new construction. Our counterplan does not involve a significant or substantial increase in our nation's infrastructure spending, at least not by the federal U.S. government, as the resolution suggests. The state of Indiana once implemented a plan in which a private company did the state's highways and paid the state $4 billion. Not only did the state of Indiana get $4 billion richer, it also fixed many of its own highway problems. Our counterplan is similar to this idea. America is an extremely large country with many different areas that have different needs. Declaring a large plan of spending for the entire country would be irresponsible. In our plan, each state will elect a committee of 5 representatives to take all instances where infrastructure spending is needed and determine whether it should be received or not, and also decide whether it should be privatized or not. As I mentioned earlier, a study reported by The Guardian states that infrastructure spending is most effective and efficient when it fixes current problems and tries to predict where others may be fixed. Our counterplan would not involve large investments in new infrastructure. It would fix the problems that our nation is currently having. It is more practical and desirable than the plan proposed by the affirmative side. In conclusion, a substantial increase in investment for transportation infrastructure would not allow our country to focus on the more pressing issues. We do not need to prioritize the need for new infrastructure, but rather we should let the states decide how they want to do it and allow them the option of privatizing their infrastructure if they see fit. We have shown to you that drastic change will lead to drastic waste. The cost of implementing a plan to substantially increase transportation infrastructure investment is too high, and significant infrastructure investment is ineffective and inefficient. We have also proven that the affirmative plan is not practical or desirable, while our counterplan is more so. It is very important for our country to realize its actual priorities when spending so much money, and we urge the judges to look at the facts and vote for the negative side. Thank you.